What unspeakable terror unfolds when a young man is discovered before the city awakens, clinging desperately to life, stripped down to his boxers, his identity a complete mystery. It was a scene that hinted at a meticulously planned, brutal execution. Yet the entire chilling plot, designed for silence and secrecy, was destined to unravel, exposed by the one thing the killer never anticipated, the detailed confession of his own accomplice. The pre-dawn horror began with a frantic 911 call, its urgency cutting through the early morning quiet on October 27, 2022. A male had been found, catastrophically injured, his body drenched in a horrifying amount of blood. Paramedics raced to the scene, finding him alive, but just barely. His breaths were shallow, his life hanging by the most fragile of threads. For the Gwinnett County Police officers arriving at the Norcross estates, it was a haunting tableau. The victim, nearly naked, offered no identification, no wallet, nothing, to tell them who he was. Only the stark crimson evidence of a savage assault staining the cold asphalt spoke of the violence he'd endured. The scene screamed of a calculated hit, an execution. As precious seconds ticked away, the desperate hunt for his name, and for the predator who had left him there to die, ignited with fierce intensity. The victim was soon identified as 22-year-old Alenton Joel Rivera Zuniga. But this breakthrough, instead of clarifying, only deepened the enigma. He had no local address on file, no readily available family in the area. He was a ghost. Then came a pivotal discovery. A nearby security camera, angled just so, had captured something. The footage showed an SUV pulling up, a shadowy figure callously dragging Alenton from the vehicle and abandoning him on the roadside. Crucially, the timestamp on this chilling footage revealed a 42-minute chasm, a devastating delay between the moment Alenton was dumped and the eventual 911 call that reported his discovery. 42 minutes he lay there alone, bleeding. Then the news no one wanted to deliver, and no one wanted to hear. Alenton's fight for life had ended in the hospital. The investigation instantly escalated. This was no longer an aggravated assault. It was a full-blown homicide. The hunt for a killer began. But how could they track down a phantom when their victim seemed to have vanished into thin air even before his final tragic moments? Detectives, faced with a victim who seemed to have few local ties, dove headfirst into the sprawling digital world of social media. Their search unearthed a potential connection, a man named Octavio, who Alenton referred to as Primo, or cousin, in several photos. Tracing Octavio's online footprint led them to an address, but what they found there triggered immediate and serious alarm. The house showed clear signs of forced entry. Shattered glass crunched underfoot near a broken window, the window itself ajar. Had another tragedy unfolded within these walls? Was there another victim? Or was a dangerous perpetrator lying in wait? The house was eerily quiet, an unsettling heavy silence that spoke volumes of potential danger or a far more complex, sinister situation. Officers, exercising caution, decided to back off and await reinforcements before entering. Eventually, they managed to connect with Octavio elsewhere. It was then he delivered a stunning revelation. He wasn't Alenton's cousin. He was his brother. The painful, gut-wrenching task of informing him and his family that Alenton had been murdered fell to the officers. Amidst their crushing, unimaginable grief, Alenton's family unknowingly held a crucial key. The name of the friend Alenton was last seen with, the person he'd left home with that fateful night. The friend was quickly located and questioned. His story was that he had last seen Alenton at a local venue, La Casa Sports Bar, and they had parted ways around 2 a.m. But something about his demeanor, his account, immediately raised red flags for the seasoned investigators. It felt off, incomplete. Their suspicions were soon validated. Surveillance footage meticulously recovered from La Casa Sports Bar told a different, more precise story. Alenton was seen departing the bar, not at 2 a.m. but significantly later, at 3:10 a.m., and he was alone when he walked out, climbing into an unidentified white truck. This new information left a gaping, unaccounted-for 2.5-hour window between Alenton leaving La Casa and the discovery of his grievously injured body. What happened in those missing hours? Just as detectives grappled with this void, a fresh tip surfaced, a whisper of information that would dramatically redirect their focus. Alenton had reportedly been spotted at a different establishment, the Altagama Club, much later that night, and perilously close in time and proximity to when and where he was ultimately attacked. This new sighting dramatically shifted the timeline, placing Alenton mere moments from his fatal encounter. What horrors were hidden within Altagama's late-night shadows? The investigation zeroed in on the Altagama Club. CCTV footage from the complex became a breakthrough. There, clear as day, was Alenton, visible just 16 minutes before his near-lifeless body was found. As detectives scoured the footage, a vehicle of interest emerged from the grainy images, a Nissan Pathfinder. It was the only vehicle in the vicinity, around that critical time that matched the vague description of the SUV seen at the original crime scene. 2 individuals could be discerned inside. The focus then shifted to the club's interior cameras, hoping to get a clearer look at who Alenton was with. The footage captured crucial interactions. A man with a distinct ponytail, identified as the passenger of the Pathfinder, and another man, the driver, engaging directly with Alenton. At one point, they appeared to physically restrain him, pulling him back as he tried to move away. The driver's face, though not perfectly clear, was enough. Investigators turned to a powerful tool, Clearview AI, a facial recognition service. The software worked its uncanny magic. The driver was identified as Jose Caraballo, a 28-year-old with, surprisingly, no significant prior criminal record. Armed with a name and a face for at least one of the men last seen with Alenton, investigators began to close in. But just as they were preparing their next move, an unexpected phone call from an unknown number threw another electrifying, unforeseen twist into the rapidly unfolding narrative. Detectives swiftly moved on the new intelligence. They located Jose Caraballo's registered address and, in a stroke of luck or keen observation, spotted his Nissan Pathfinder. When they approached the residence, they spoke with Jose's mother. Showing her the surveillance stills from Altagama, she confirmed the man in the footage, the driver of the Pathfinder, was indeed her son, Jose. Then came the bizarre turn. Jose himself initiated contact, calling one of the detectives. He wasn't in Georgia, he was in Puerto Rico. During the conversation, he admitted to being at Altagama that night, casually mentioning he was with a friend he called Brian. He denied picking anyone else up. While Jose was still out of the country, investigators secured warrants for his phone records. The data that came back was damning. It painted a digital trail showing Jose's phone, and chillingly, Alenton's phone, moving in perfect synchrony from the Altagama Club to the desolate spot where Alenton was dumped. Both phones then continued to Jose's residence. The digital breadcrumbs were irrefutable. Upon his return to the United States, Jose Caraballo was arrested. His visible shock and apparent disbelief when informed of the charges, armed robbery, aggravated assault, and felony murder, hinted to detectives that he might not have grasped the deadly severity of what Brian had done that night, or his own culpability. Facing the full, terrifying weight of the law, Jose made a decision that would change the entire trajectory of the case. His story, once he began to tell it, would paint a vivid, terrifying tableau of Alenton's last, desperate hours. Under the terms of a proffer agreement, a chance to tell his side in hopes of leniency, Jose Caraballo laid bare the horrifying events of that night. He claimed his friend, Brian Sanchez Duarte, the passenger with the ponytail, was consumed by a dangerous paranoia. Brian had become convinced that Alenton Zuniga, a stranger to them, was a member of a rival gang and was somehow a threat to him. Inside the close confines of Jose's Nissan Pathfinder, Brian's demeanor turned menacing. He brandished a handgun. To underscore his deadly intent, he dramatically racked the slide. ejecting live rounds, issuing chilling threats to a visibly terrified Alenton. Desperate and fearing for his life, Alenton offered up his wallet, his phone, anything of value. He even stripped off his outer clothing, frantically trying to prove he was unarmed, pleading with Brian to let him go. According to Jose, Brian then directed him to drive to a dark, secluded residential area. When Alenton frantically tried to open the car door and escape, he discovered the child's safety locks were engaged, trapping him. Jose recounted that Brian then coolly exited the vehicle, walked around to Alenton's door, opened it, and spoke. To Alenton, feigning reassurance. Then, in a shocking betrayal of any feigned mercy, Brian shot Alenton point blank. The horror didn't end there. Jose alleged that later, back at his house, Brian callously boasted about the act. He reportedly showed Jose a tattoo claiming it signified, "I am the death," and laughed about the murder as if it were a trivial matter. Jose's harrowing testimony unmasked the alleged shooter, but Brian Sanchez Duarte was already a whisper in the wind, having vanished. With Jose Caraballo's detailed confession painting Brian Sanchez Duarte as the cold-blooded triggerman, Brian became the investigation's prime target. Intelligence quickly suggested he hadn't just fled the immediate area. He'd bolted from Georgia altogether, reportedly heading to Boston, Massachusetts. It was even rumored he was already on the run from authorities there for other, unrelated matters. An intensive, multi-state manhunt was launched. For 8 long weeks, investigators and fugitive task forces worked tirelessly, chasing down leads. Finally, their efforts paid off. U.S. Marshals tracked Brian Sanchez Duarte down and apprehended him in Lynn, Massachusetts, extradited back to Georgia to face justice for the murder of Alenton Zuniga. Brian offered investigators nothing but a wall of silence. Upon being brought into an interview room, he immediately invoked his constitutional right to an attorney, refusing to answer any questions about that fatal night. Detectives were left with Jose's chilling and detailed account. A senseless, brutal murder fueled by baseless fear, mistaken identity, and one man's deadly, unchecked aggression. With one man detailing the crime, and the other offering only steadfast silence, the path to justice for Alenton was paved with disturbing clarity, yet still filled with the unanswered sorrow of his grieving family. A casual night out for Alenton. Zuniga, a young man with his life ahead of him, spiraled into an unimaginable and fatal nightmare. It was a tragedy born from a catastrophic misunderstanding, fueled by one individual's explosive paranoid violence. The intricate police work that followed was a testament to modern investigative techniques, meticulously weaving together digital breadcrumbs from cell phone towers, hours of grainy surveillance footage, the precise science of facial recognition, and ultimately, one critical, game-changing confession from an accomplice. Both Jose Caraballo and Brian Sanchez Duarte were subsequently charged with felony murder and aggravated assault. While the legal process rightly upholds the presumption of innocence until proven guilty in a court of law, the stark, undeniable reality of Alenton Zuniga's stolen future and the profound loss endured by his family is inescapable. The case stands as a somber and chilling reminder, a stark illustration of how swiftly a human life can be extinguished by irrational fear and unchecked violence, leaving behind an irreplaceable void and the enduring, agonizing question of what true solace and ultimate justice can ever mean for those left to mourn such a devastating loss.